Well, about 24 hours ago, I was in this Crusader showroom and talking in 3.22 series of patches live and talking about how the prices in 3.23 EPTU were not available and you should buy ships, etc. And now I'm back because when I went and checked ArcCorp, the prices were in. So let's see if the prices are in again. By the way, I do not have upscaling on because I had a flicker issue earlier at another location after like my second shoot. So, well, that was like minutes ago. I don't know why I'm talking about it like that. But I knew I couldn't just do ArcCorp. I would have to do also Crusader because they hold some of their best stuff back. So at Crusader, the C2 is available for the same price of 18.9, which is a massive jump. I think it's around 4.7 or something like that million AUEC. Now it's going to be 18.9, at least tentatively, for 3.23. And then you can see all of its friends, including the MSR going up to 12.285. You've got the Ares series at 4.725. And I want to give the credit that the Inferno and the Ion are sitting at the same price point, which is actually kind of interesting. A lot of ships lately have had vastly different prices in their variants, because usually the variant has something that's significantly different about it, or modules, etc., that it comes with. And in the case of the Ion and the Inferno, they're two sides of the same coin, different way of handling it. In particular, the Ion is getting reworked into charge shot system. It got nerfed slightly in the last build, but previous builds it was extremely strong, and it already is for the charge shot system it's working with now. And the Inferno had its wings clipped a little bit where it has less ammunition, but the weapon fires a faster velocity, so the round itself is faster. So both of these are going to be very interesting to test in 3.23 as we get closer to live. And then we jump back to the C2M2A2 story. So just to remind you, before we go too deep here, the C2's at 18.9 right now, tentatively. Look at the M2 jump. The M2 jumps up to 29.484. My goodness. So 29,484,000 credits of AUEC credits in game. As a reminder, this has the military extra armor on it, and it doesn't show it here. Really ignore the way these look, but it has a chin turret on it. And a little different in the amenities that it handles and the amount of crew it has, etc., because the chin turret helps a little bit. One of the reasons I really like the chin turret in general is because you can drop just the front ramp and then have the co-pilot sitting on the chin turret guarding the unloading. So if you don't trust the people you're delivering to completely, or you're worried about somebody kind of wandering into the ship, there's only one entrance and exit that would be open, and it'll be protected by the chin turret, which is a nice touch. The downside with the chin turret is when you have a Nova-style tank or something and you're trying to drive on and off with these big vehicles, you can bump into the chin turret, especially if it's pointed the wrong way at that moment. And you could, in theory, just drive in the back, though, which doesn't have a turret. So, back to this story, look at the A2. The A2 goes up to 44,296,876 UEC. I purchased this yesterday in the live server, at least. It was, I think it was 5-something million, 5.7 million UEC credits or something. Let's just say 6, just to be safe. Just let's say 6 million credits. And that's what it was at. Now it is up to, tentatively, up to 44,296. I gotta tell you, like, these prices are going to be a shock to the system drastically to players. And then on the lower scale, we have the same situation down here. The C1 goes up to 3.1 million. The the C1's there. The E1's not out yet, of course, but the A1 jumps up to 4.9. If I was a person trying to speculate here which one's which, I would say the E1's at least going to be sitting at 4.9, maybe 4.5 or something around there, a little bit above or below the A1 price when it eventually comes out down the line. That's the least of our worries right now. So if you haven't already, be sure to buy ships in game now. If there's a full wipe, it doesn't matter if you did or you didn't. If there's an LTP style wipe, you have a better chance of keeping said ships with the money you have, with the credits you have. And if there is an LTP style wipe where you keep credits and ships, you will be stuck without said ships, and now you'll have to buy them at these higher price points. Now, there is a little bit of a silver lining here. So if you go into contracts, some of the contracts seem to be higher valued. But that's because some of these are, and some of them are still low. But like there was a while ago where some of these, like look at this, cleared flame jumpers for 5K. It's not even worth my fuel cost to get out there. Well, fuel and time, etc., and ammunition. But like if you go into some of these 7K, but the point is that some of these are jumping up pretty high, which is nice. So I've talked with some folks who are already seeing like 100+ K bounties. You can see this clear the sites type jobs for 75K plus, and then of course loot you find too, don't forget. I think that's kind of where we need to go, is these payouts need to jump up. The bonuses for getting it done on time and quick enough, and the loot drops need to kind of update to meet these new price points of the more expensive ships. And if the ships are getting this expensive, don't kid yourself, eventually the components will as well. And I don't think it's a good idea to just keep grinding out money just for ships and components and such. But if you have credits sitting around, put them in ships. Invest in ships. At worst, you just lose everything anyway. At best, you end up with ships where you don't have your money massively devalued with 3.23 Live comes out in a couple weeks. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. I'm going to jump over to the ArcCorp list of ships too, so you have a better picture of the overall options of the ships for sale. So over here at ArcCorp on 3.23 EPTU Wave 2, we have other ships for sale and a few that we've already seen. So this is the all manufacturers, but as you've seen in the other section, all manufacturers is not necessarily every ship for sale. In fact, don't trust this list. You have to go into the manufacturer itself. But things that are already standing out is the 600i Exploration and Touring that are at 2 different price points. And of course, the alien-based ships. So my theory from about 24 hours ago video about how there's focus on luxury and military vessels, because that's what CIG's economy team said during their interviews most recently, estimating costs going up for those items. Also, Alien has its tax still, just like the old days. You will note that the 600i Exploration has a price point about 24.9 million. And don't worry, we're going to go manufacturer by manufacturer on this video too. But that's up from 9,475,000, for example, that it currently is at this exact same location, Astro Armada in 3.22 Live. But in front of you is the current tentative prices for 3.23. Now, these can all change before 3.23 goes live. So sorry to throw this all at you, but this is what to anticipate. We know there's going to be a price hike, and these are the literal prices sitting in 3.23's build right now. So back to trying to keep this a little coherent, we have the price jumps. For Origin specifically, 400i sitting at 11.4, which is up from 6.3. And then the 890 jump, not hitting 70 million like they originally estimated, but hitting 65 point something from 32.2. So a basically doubling of the price. Mirai, no real major surprises there. Same with the snub fighters from Kruger. Grey Cat going up slightly from 5K and 12K to 29K and 75K, which sounds like a lot in percentages or something, but that's still a very small amount of money in the game. And the C2 Starlifter going up to 18.9. Now, we've already covered the Crusader, so I'm not going to go too deep into that. This CO stuff kind of staying the same. The Banu Defender jumping up to 6 million plus from 2.7 is a big shock to me. And the Aopoa stuff going up to 7 and 9, respectively, from 2 million on the Cartooth Owl. It's going up to 7 million. Is just a dramatic jump in price. So we're seeing these aliens tax items going up and up and up. Ground vehicles also being big jumps. And another surprise was the most expensive C8 Pisces going to 550K, 555K for the Rescue, which is the most expensive in cash Pisces. On to Lorville. This one was hard because there's a lot of players running up to this thing, and one guy was locking it out for like 10 minutes straight. It was a mess. Absolute mess. So everybody's getting anxious. But I took my time and eventually got these prices in your hand. So in Lorville, two of the big storylines to me are Drake and Misk. With Misk, for example, only jumping the hull C from 15.7 to 16 plus. That's pretty interesting to me. Whereas the very modular in the future Drake Caterpillar is going up to 12.7, sitting there from 4.68 is a dramatic price increase. Now, we've already covered the C2M2A2 by far, so don't sweat that. The Argo Mole going up to 8.9 from its positioning at 5.1 is dramatic. Don't forget you can pause any of this video, use the chapters to jump around to the different locations. Look at that reclaimer at 31.7, essentially following the double model because it was jumping from 15.1 all the way up to 31.7. So when in doubt, double your price and be pleasantly expected if it's less. Some prices have gone up even further. You can use the current wikis to get the prices that they are now and then compare them to the prices that are in the future. You can pause this video in each section and see the prices that are tentative. As a reminder, 3.23 EPTU is still work in progress. And now into overtime. So this is a tour of Bevic Convention Center and just kind of some ILW history, what to expect at ILW, and if it does come to Bevic, this might be a little taste of what the main hall is and some of my suspicions of them setting up for it. This is now my second attempt at this location. They started trying to suffocate me, so I had to go back and get a helmet, even though these people are standing here with no helmets on. So, where I'm at is the Bevic Convention Center on Area 18. And I have always had a pretty out there theory of whenever CIG goes out of their way to make a place unsustainable but leaves it open, they are trying to keep you away from it. I could be way off course here, but the fact I need to even go back and get a helmet, and you can't just go and pop a helmet on because it has a different inventory location than the rest of Area 18, a lot like the old hospitals used to have. I just found this very interesting. Now, I don't see any like big changes or anything that just blatantly says like welcome for 2024. I don't see any inventory on the shelves. Like I said, I could be way off base. But I do find it interesting that this is all still here in the lobby at least. So I'm just going to put this in as filler at the end as like extra stuff. If you like this kind of content, for those who haven't been to Invictus launch week before, that's the logo. They do change it occasionally, and the color schemes for IAE do change every year, but Invictus launch week tends to have the same color schemes because it's based on the UEE Navy colors, which is that flag over there. And traditionally they have the ship manufacturer shirts and hats. Usually the hats are on the shelf and the shirts are on the sleeves. Then they have a very famous bomber jacket that everyone likes that you can buy in game. And then until like a super long wipe, you can keep said jacket. There is some theory, some credence that if they do decide to do a full wipe or an LTP wipe that would somehow impact your clothing purchases in game, this would be the correct time to do it because that jacket is held in high regard by players and they would immediately be able to run over to wherever it is. It doesn't have to be here at Bevic. It could be at a different convention center this year, but I don't know. This place looks pretty ready to go to start getting set up for the event. But if it was, you would, wherever it is, you would see an Invictus launch week area where it would be for sale all the period of time. It's at least 1 week long. It tends to be kind of this long thing. And then right after Invictus launch week, You have Drake Defense Con, which I just consider part of it. That's Drake Day, essentially, and whatnot. And then you have Alien Week after that, which is pretty cool. So, Invictus Launch Week in lore is actually like a celebration of the fleet, and the fleet goes around the system and visits everywhere. They have traditionally a javelin tour as well that's included, and there's no in-game cost or anything. You just show up and you can wander around parts of the javelin, and many people believe this year they'll also have an Idris to take a look at. This is all older stuff that's been here since before, but I thought I'd just share this because I thought it was weird that it didn't have the oxygen, and some of the suits are missing. Obviously, these are all missing their undersuits. Most of those are missing their military suits. But they could easily set this thing back up for Invictus Launch Week, and this is already sitting in here for 3.23, and it's been in 3.22 live last time I checked, but that was weeks ago. Notice the elevator keys are missing right here. So if they wanted to test the halls, they could without us being able to get in there. They could just also have pulled those so people don't get trapped in the elevators, to be fair, too. Or they could have just been broken in one of the latest builds. See, that's one of the problems with sometimes I'll go and tour stuff off video, and if I don't have the video, I can't pull it back up and take a look and see, like, oh, were those missing in 3.22 or not? Also, it bears mentioning, but I am using upscaling as well, like usual. Vulcan, DLSS, qualities at 1440p. And this is on 3.23 EPTU Wave 2. And it's looking pretty good. This on FSR might be a little different if I was using FSR. And just for the heck of it, for those who are viewing and interested in that type of thing, let's take a look. So some people pointed out that the flickering for FSR, it takes a minute for it to cook, by the way. Don't look at the FPS timer just yet until it gets a few seconds. FSR tends to handle lighting a little differently. It tends to flicker differently. I call it like a neon effect. Others have pointed out that it's just not great. And this is very, I would say this lighting is extremely aggressive for any kind of upscaling, unfortunately, for it. And I think FSR in particular suffers the most. Now, if I turn off upscaling, my FPS will probably tank. Yep, give it a second to cook a little longer. But the lighting should look a little better. Other than, of course, the FPS. But yeah, the strobing lighting is not being kind to it. Actually, the FPS is going back up a little bit. Yeah, it's holding at 50, 52, 51, kind of dancing around there. And dropping below 50 to be fair. Let's take a look again at DLSS this time, which tends to be my go-to lately. Nothing against FSR, but I have a 4000 series NVIDIA card. So it tends to be the home school team, the home team, but then I just choose to compare everything else to. We're back up in the 50s. We're tucking up into 54, 55. And as it cooks, it's kind of going up and down a little bit. 56s, 57s. There we go. So yeah, upscaling has its moments. I do think DLSS handles the strobing effect a little better than FSR, but I do think FSR has its moments as well. I think that it just handles quick flick motions of the ships and stuff like that better. But this is all, of course, my opinion. What you see and what works for your card is probably for the best for you. Just while we're here, I'm just kind of exploring every piece of this place. But yeah, that's usually the color scheme for Invictus. So if you're wondering if there's going to be new ship paints for sale, most likely there will be, but they'll be those colors. So if you like those colors, rejoice. If you don't like those colors, not so great.